House of Representatives investigates suspension of Twitter. House seeks legal backing for security outfits in states. And House pushes for investment in community projects for the benefit of young Nigerians. A very warm welcome to another edition of You and Your Reps. My name is Victor Azu. Many thanks for joining us. The leadership of the House of Representatives has instituted an investigation into the federal government's suspension of social networking site Twitter's operations. House Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila said the investigation will be jointly conducted by the House Committees on Justice, Information and Culture, Communication and Committee on National Security and Intelligence. National Assembly correspondent Lamia Ali reports.
The investigation to be carried out within a 10-day period, said the Speaker, was to determine the circumstances of the decision by the federal government to suspend the microblogging site Twitter and the legal authority for the ban. The Joint Committee is to invite the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, for a brief on the objectives, intent and duration of the suspension.
The House of Representatives recognizes that Twitter, like other social media networks, is an important tool for communication and for commerce in Nigeria, particularly among the younger generation who have used these networks for enterprise and innovation with great success. The House also recognizes that as social media has been a tool for good, it can also be a tool for bad actors. As such, the government has a legitimate interest in ensuring that these platforms are not used to commit vile actions against individuals and the state.
Gbajabiamila, at the commencement of plenary, read a presidential communication seeking the confirmation of Major General Yahaya as Chief of Army Staff. The invasion and killings in Igangan, Oyo State, was condemned by House members after being raised by the Southwest Caucus.
It is alleged that over 50 harmless indigenes of the town were killed in cold blood. About 90 others sustained life-threatening injuries.
Following a motion from Francis Agbu on killings in parts of Benue State, the House urged authorities to assist victims, just as it urged the provision of relief materials to survivors and families of victims of the recent boat mishap in Kebbi State, as raised by House members from that state. Meanwhile, the House has adopted a resolution urging federal government to formulate a tax policy on beverage with high sugar contents due to health risks, as moved by Hassan Nalaraba.
And make it mandatory for all sugar-sweetened beverages to indicate the sugar content and health risks on the product.
Among bills considered as second reading is the bill from Anthony Affair seeking to ensure that only political parties with nationalistic structures participate in federal elections.
If any political party does not win a seat or 2 seats at the State House Assembly, such political parties should not exist.
The bill to establish National Institute of Credit Administration was considered as Committee of the Whole.
The security situation across the country continues to generate reactions. Now acknowledging that security is everyone's business, the House of Representatives wants a legal framework in place for security outfits of states to function and help in tackling local criminals. A bill to that effect has passed second reading.
The Constitution Alteration Bill, sponsored by Anthony Affair, seeks to find and active rules for state and local governments pertaining to funding and other logistic support to ensure effective crime fighting and intelligence gathering. The idea is centered on complementing the Nigeria Police Force, maintain law and order.
There's need for us to structure it in the Constitutional Amendment for it to have a legal backing, so we don't have different outfits that are uncoordinated.
Also passed at second reading during plenary Wednesday is a bill to establish Alex Ekweme Teaching Hospital from Chinedu Oga. a bill to establish Nigerian Paramilitary Academy sponsored by Adesegun Abdul-Majid, and a bill to establish Admiralty University sponsored by Yusuf Adamu Gagdi.
As a conventional university with selected programs, limited and focused faculty to promote scholarship, research and other means of advancement of knowledge, and its practical application to military hardware and software.
The House adopted a resolution urging the Central Bank of Nigeria to reverse its policy, which has seemingly caused a free fall of the Naira, as moved by Bamidele Salam, and resolved to investigate federal government's loans to farmers from 2009 to date, as highlighted by Chike Okafor. The motion from the minority leader Ndudi Elumelu calling on the federal government to submit to the National Assembly the report of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission was adopted.
Mandate the House Committee on Finance to invite Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission to appear before them for further explanation as to the issue of the report.
Meanwhile, the House, in response to an appeal from Kabir Shukura, urged deployment of additional security personnel to fight insecurity in Kebbi State. It also stressed the need for the federal government to address communal clashes in Gombe State, as raised by Karu Simon Elisha.
And in support of the federal government's employment generation policy to curb youth restiveness, the House of Representatives has passed a second reading, a bill to facilitate implementation. The Federal Entrepreneurship Center's Establishment Bill seeks investment in community projects for the benefit of young Nigerians.
The Federal Government Entrepreneurship Center's Establishment Bill, sponsored by Usman Zanna, seeks the creation of such centers in local government areas across the Federation for the purpose of building capacity and making the youth more innovative and self-reliant.
The project is designed to term as a game changer in providing training strategies and certification programs that will assist young Nigerians to embrace micro, small and medium-scale enterprises as an alternative to an employment option.
Other bills passed at second reading include the Institute of Chartered Accountants Bill from Abubakar Yunusa and the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies Amendment Bill sponsored by Abdullahi Halims. Other considerations were the second reading of Adamu Sanda College of Education Ganye Establishment Bill from Abdurazak Namdas, the Elkanemi College of Education Bama Establishment Bill sponsored by Zainab Gimba, and the bill seeking the establishment of Federal Orthopedic Hospital Azare, Borno State, sponsored by Haruna Mishelia.
Azare in Borno State, Your Excellency, which is the capital of our local government, is centrally located in the northeast zone, where if you move 150 kilometers in all directions, you would have gone to all the other 5 states in the zone.
The security breaches in Niger State, the recent of which is the abduction of school pupils in Chagina, raised by the Niger State Caucus, saw House members urging the federal government to secure the release of the abductees. The House also resolved to investigate recent attacks in parts of Benue State, which left scores dead and property destroyed, as moved by Goddy Samuel. The need for the federal government to comply with the Niger Delta Development Commission Act on Constitution of Governing Board was supported.
Despite Section 4 and 12 of the NDDC Act, the position of the board chairman, managing director, and 2 executive directors are solely occupied by Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Delta, Rivers, Cross River, leaving out Ondo State, Imo State, and Edo State.
Plenary has been adjourned to 29th June 2021.
Also within the week, a delegation of the Taiwan government from the Taipei Trade Office in Nigeria paid a visit to the House Committee on Science and Technology. Their intention? To foster parliamentary relationship.
We just want to say that we're very happy with the friendship we've established with Taiwan. We have visited Taiwan, we have seen your capacities and your capabilities, and we have a similar history, Nigeria and Taiwan. In the 60s and 70s, we were at par. but you jumped to becoming an Asian tiger. So we want to copy and emulate that example. We want you to support us in our science and technology research. We also want you to support us in our quest for economic growth, helping us with direction and even with trainings where possible. And we want you to support us in various fields of life.
And that pitch turns out good enough to extract some commitment from the Taiwanese delegation.
Anything that we can do to help promote the parliament-to-parliament, people-to-people relation and come down to the real term of what Taiwan can help to provide either technical assistance or vocational training or scholarship. I think this is one of the major purposes of our office.
Adjournment is a common word in corporate settings, which simply means to postpone. But when it comes to the legislature, it means more. Let's find out.
By our proceedings, the House sits on a particular date and time. So, whenever the House is concluding a sitting for a particular day, it will announce an adjournment. We have two types of adjournments. You either adjourn to a particular date. If, for example, this House is sitting on a Tuesday, it can adjourn to a Tuesday, the next day. Okay, and then particular hour. So House may declare that House is adjourning to Wednesday, if the sitting is on Tuesday, to convene at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. Thus, an adjournment with a specific date, adjournment to a specific date and time. Then, this House can also adjourn sine die. Sine die means indefinite. And adjourn indefinitely, it can convene any time the House wishes. So they will have two types of adjournment: adjournment to a particular date and time, or adjournment sine die, which means indefinite.
Still in the spirit of the Constitution review, we also went to town to get the views of random people on the streets. And here's what we found.
So if we have state police, fiscal policy through federalism, I believe that it will sanitize the situation very well. Some people are saying that we need new constitution, but if you cannot get new constitution, let us review this one.
Nigeria is a federation, and every federal system is a continual dialogue. And the nation building is not a one-day job. It is like a ritual. When you are moving forward, you find out that there is a lacuna in somewhere, you stop and then you resolve it together nationally. And so constitutional review is important because nothing is static. It's about change, and the only permanent thing in life is change. And so nation building process. The nation building process is not permanent. It is a continual process. And what I view is that the real problem with all is not about the constitution. You design something, you give it to somebody to operate. If it doesn't operate according to the design or the designing law, then it will not work. So I find it very, very imperative to mention here that it is about the operation, not the constitution itself.
This constitution we are using now does not represent the general views of the people. So I believe that if they apply sincerity in the constitutional review right now and bring everybody on board to a round table to discuss how do we bring out a constitution that will be favorable to the Nigerian people, that will be in agreement with the yearnings of Nigerian people. If they do that, that is the process of finding peace in the country.
This week on You and Your Reps, the committee's segment rather takes a look at the recent zonal public hearings on a review of the 1999 Constitution. We spoke with the chairman, Bauchi Zone of the public hearings in the Northeast, Suleiman Aminu, who shares his experience from that engagement.
I'm not sure there is anything outside the box that was not part of the issue earlier contemplated that was presented at the Benue. They all harbor around the 30 thematic areas that were listed and which have been part and parcel of our challenges as a country. However, one must emphasize that the commitment of purpose exhibited by the people of the center, comprising Bauchi, Borno, and Yobe, were quite exciting. It underscores the fact that Nigerians are ready to discuss the document governing our existence and are alive to the responsibility of trying to contribute to what will be the guiding principle going forward by our country. It's always impossible to clap with one hand. Two hands must be readily available for any anticipated clap. Therefore, if we discharge our duties diligently, effectively, patriotically, and honestly, that does not automatically translate into effecting those changes. The state must concur and the president must assent. Now, people don't know of this, or if they do, they find it convenient to downplay the other aspect. I convey the assurances of the Honorable Speaker of the House of Rep, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, and of course the Chairman of the Special Standing Committee on the Review of the Constitution, that is Deputy Speaker Idris Wasi, to the effect that the position and voice of Nigerians will count as much as it is possible, as far as the National Assembly and House of Representatives in particular is concerned. To this end, we are committed. We have just returned and we are in the process of compiling the reports which will be zonally presented to the main committee. I am sure the committee will still and debate the outcome and produce one report that will be submitted to the House. Before then, the Central Committee will again hold another panel public hearing with participants from all the zones of the country, for them to reconfirm that these are products that were gathered from all the zones, and for them to reaffirm the position of Nigerians as they relate to that. This would now pave way for the general debate in the House, which I'm sure, like in the previous cases, will be broadcast live. And you know, the leadership of the Ninth Assembly has digitalize our proceedings now, and therefore Nigerians and constituents will be able to know where and what there are representatives voted for.
And back here in Abuja, we engaged the member representing Gwei East, Gwei West Federal Constituency, Mark Bila, to share his thoughts on the entire process.
Sincerely, I believe that as Nigerians, we are all already privy
to what the issues are. Now, there might be one or two regions that might postulate a different opinion. Some people are already angling for more percentage of the derivation fund for the general, that's for the South, specifically the oil producing areas. You know, they're already angling for that. That might be the new thing that might come up. You know, but the fundamental issues are still the same, which is devolution of powers, which is autonomy, which is state police. These are things that bother and hinge on the critical aspects of our existence as a nation and what participation we will all have in this entity called Nigeria. So the issues, it's not rocket science. The issues, we cannot reinvent the wheel. We already know what the issues are. And there are specific issues that some of us also want to bring to the fore. They have been indicated before, but let me say maybe a few of them are things that have not been properly articulated. One of which is the issue of the removal of certain items in the exclusive list. It is critical for this nation to unlock the resources that we have been unable as a country to access. It is unheard of that till date in the 21st century we're still putting railway in the exclusive list. How do we intend to get the resources? This is a very huge revenue generating avenue that can create thousands and hundreds of thousands of jobs and transform the economy of our nation. But we have just kept it as one of the items on the exclusive list, where the government has to always finance the expansion of the railway network and infrastructure. That is not done anywhere. This is a private and a commercial business. It is essential that as a country we start to listen to what the federating units are demanding for. And one of the critical aspects, let me start from this, is with regards to our revenue sharing formula. My people want there to be a formal statutory provision that reduces the money that the center receives, so that more resources from our commonwealth would reach down to the federating units, which we believe will translate to better and enhanced development of our areas. That is one aspect. The other aspect, now that has to do with welfare. Now let me come to security, which is what is bedeviling our people. And of course I would want to commiserate with the people of my state and my local government for the killings that have been going on in the, I'm sure you have heard about 100 lives or so that were lost as at yesterday in the Benue-Ebonyi border. Let me use that to commiserate with them. But so one of the critical things we want with regards to security is the issue of the state police. Now this is something that we as a nation need to be able to confront and address properly. This is something that needs to be enshrined in our constitution and given the enabling powers to the states to be able to provide that security. And even with regards to security and welfare is the issue of autonomy. Now, our governors are very sensitive about that issue, but I believe that the future of our country is more important than their tenure as governors. And I'm not casting aspersion on any governor, but Nigerians know that it's a particular issue when you start to talk about the autonomy of the local government areas. The third tier of government is non-existent in our country at the moment, the local government. And it is something that we need to be very conscious of. That is the aspect that my people are very critically concerned about. And that's where majority of my people in my constituency dwell.
And you and your reps will be hoping that the process births a constitution that truly works for all Nigerians. And that's the program for the week. Thank you for keeping us company. My name is Victor Azu. Join us again.